Recently, Bloomberg published a piece claiming that after his meeting with Donald Trump in Alaska, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin decided to intensify strikes on Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. Why? Because he sensed weakness in the American leader and his unwillingness to fully back the Ukrainians. That meeting itself turned out to be symbolic for many reasons. Trump basically dragged Putin out of the swamp of international isolation, rolled out a red carpet for him, and almost kissed him in front of the cameras. And the location made it even more surreal: Alaska, once part of Russia. Unsurprisingly, Kremlin propagandists jumped on that like hungry dogs on a bone, loudly proclaiming how much Russian spirit still lingers in Alaska. But how did this land, once under Russian control, end up in American hands? That's what we'll explore in this video. Russians first landed in Alaska in 1732, led by Mikhail Gvozdyov. He charted about 300 kilometers of the coastline. The newcomers were especially interested in fur-bearing animals, and within 50 years, Russian trading companies were already operating there. Catherine the Great didn't care much about this frozen land, so Alaska officially became part of the Russian Empire only under her son, Paul I. He founded the Russian-American Company, giving it exclusive rights to manage and trade in the region. But Russian colonization didn't go smoothly. Ever heard of the Russian-Native American War? Yes, it actually happened. From 1802 to 1805, local tribes burned down several Russian settlements. Moscow's response was predictable: brutal retaliation, wiping out at least a third of the indigenous population. Many of the survivors eventually converted to Christianity, which helped stabilize the situation somewhat. Still, Russians then weren't much different from Russians today. They can conquer, but building something sustainable? Not really their thing. The Russian-American Company was riddled with corruption, and ironically, much of the profit went to American and British traders. The real problems began after Russia's crushing defeat in the Crimean War. The battles weren't limited to Crimea. British and French forces pushed the Russians out of Petropavlovsk and Kamchatka, leaving Alaska practically defenseless. Desperate, Russia asked the US to temporarily protect Alaska, so France and Britain wouldn't dare to attack lands under the American flag. Eventually, Americans offered to buy it outright. Emperor Alexander II, strapped for cash after the war, had little reason to refuse. Interestingly, even in the US, still recovering from its civil war, the idea wasn't that popular. The Senate barely ratified the deal. But on March 30th, 1867, Alaska officially became American territory. The price? Just $7.2 million. Fast forward 30 years, and Russians were tearing their hair out. Huge gold deposits were discovered in Alaska, including one of the richest in America. Then came the oil boom of the 20th century, turning Alaska into the nation's top oil-producing state at one point. Add to that the fact that Alaska provides about 2/3 of America's seafood, ranks among the top US states by GDP per capita, and you get the picture. Locals today shudder at the thought of what life would have been like if Russia hadn't sold the land. Actually, you don't need to imagine. Just look across the Bering Strait at Russia's bleak Chukotka region. And there's more. During the Cold War, Alaska became a key US military outpost, and it still is. It hosts military bases and early warning radar systems. Imagine if some deranged dictator had Alaska under his control today. That's why Putin's presence on this snowy land looked not just ironic, but downright surreal.